we've all experienced some level of failure. Like our lives have both been blessed. We've both had our challenges. We've both had our experiences.
We learn by contrast, apparently, the human species. We know what fast is because we know what really slow is, hot and cold.
We talk about this journey, and you've been a competitor, a coach, a leader, a spouse, a parent, and you've done all of these at different levels of success, ultimately. And you're talking about that definition of success being about the ease at which you handle adversity and challenges and successes and affluence. How do you apply that definition to each of those different roles in life? So, to anyone listening who's in any number of roles, which they have, how do we apply that definition to what they're experiencing?
Let me first tell you that I've also experienced failure. And that's the strength that I've got when I talk to leaders. I've been a really good leader and I've been a really bad one, all with the same intent to do the right thing. I've been a good coach, good athlete, and I've been a good partner and a bad partner, good dad, bad dad. So and again, none of it with bad intent, none of it, for any other reason than trying to make other people's lives better. So I understand what failure feels like and looks like. So some people, we learn by contrast, apparently, the human species. We know what fast is because we know what really slow is, hot and cold.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the two ways that go with that is either we either learn through awareness or suffering. Harry, don't put your hand on the hot plate.
What, like this? You sure?
Yes.
Like this?
There you go. Well, you just use my model of learning. But, so I think that, again, rather than use the word success in all those areas that you asked me, Harry, it's more about awareness. And, I've met people that most of their awareness has been generated by being successful. I guess I've got that contrast, that I've experienced extreme success and been so fortunate and so grateful to have that. And I've experienced extreme failure, and I'm so grateful and so fortunate to have that as well. But I understand it. So when I'm talking to, let's say, a first responder who's in extreme difficulty, that I'll never say to anyone I understand what you're going through, because when you actually understand what they do or have an insight into what they're going through, you go, I don't really want to understand that. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is I do know what failure feels like. I do know what adversity looks like and feels like, so that, that you can sort of join people in that journey out of there, or support them. If all you've experienced in life is amazing success, and I go and speak to people like that, I would probably be a little bit like them sometimes. How do you relate to what I'm what I'm experiencing?
Mm. And
does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah. But I mean, I guess that everything's on a scale, and it sounds like what you're referring to is the ability to have empathy rather than just sympathy, because we've all experienced some level of failure, and like our lives have both been blessed. We've both had our challenges. We've both had our experiences. You probably had far greater failures and frustrations and challenges than I have, but almost certainly. But our experiences are completely blessed compared to the vast majority of people in a lot of areas of the world. And so, I mean, but at the end of the day, you'd still be able to help them. You'd still be able to support them because you can connect somehow at their level.
Well, after connection, you got to have the tools. Let me go back to a little point you made there, because one of my new big words I use is balance. And I got to tell you that empathy needs to be balanced with sympathy.
Okay.
Because empathy is I feel your pain. You got to be careful with that, because that. Whereas sympathy is I really feel bad for what you're experiencing. Can I feel bad for you that you're experiencing this. You got to get the balance of that right, because if you just use only empathy, you end up and you're working in an area that you want to support and help people, you got to be very careful. Equally, you can't be just use sympathy. You've got to drift between the two, but not go too far either way. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like the balance is 50-50. I'd imagine the balance is relative to whatever circumstance you're in.
I'm just going to sit back and let you answer all the questions.
No. You're inspiring this. I'm just trying to find it a little bit with more clarity, because it's. I mean, what you're referring to is woo-woo. I mean, I've explored a lot of it, and even had a friend of mine who was a monk for 10 years on an earlier episode 3, and he started talking about how he could literally feel people's pain without them even saying anything, without them expressing pain, just by simply sitting next to them or being near them. He can actually feel the pain and, in some sense, know what that was, like some kind of domestic dispute or some kind of frustration with a relationship, those types of things. And while that sounds woo-woo, I've had personal experiences which are similar to that, which this is this kind of idea of balancing empathy versus sympathy. Like I'm really curious by. Because in some circumstances I've been in, I don't even need to know the details of their situation to be able to feel their pain. And I've been able to find that feeling their pain, just simply being there and being present with them, actually allows a lot of it to dissipate. And then then you can share a whole bunch of tools and resources that helped you have change in your life, or that you've seen others have change in theirs. But if someone's listening to this and and they're thinking to themselves, I'm inspired by what Matt's done. I'm inspired by his journey. It's incredible. He admits he's had a lot of success and a lot of failure in every single role that he's had. He's done a lot of things by accident. He's done some amazing things by intention as well. And here he is saying that sometimes you just got to be empathetic. Sometimes you got to be sympathetic, and you kind of got to find a balance between those two. And I want to go out there and create more change in others' lives. Well, how do they find the balance? How do they explore that?
First of all, go back to what I said before. Know yourself. Become an expert in yourself. Check in on yourself, because there's no balance without that understanding of yourself. And I'll talk. The example you gave about the Buddhist, and look. The more that you look at people, and you're looking for that, the more that you understand it. It's not complex, is it? So if I was a doctor or, a skin doctor and I was looking at you, some people mightn't pick up, the small, disparity in your skin that could be a cancer, right? Mm-hmm. But if I'm a skin doctor and I'm looking at it all the time, well, I see it. Is that right? You understand that?
Yeah, of course.
So it's not really that complex. Like if you've got a partner and you're really close to them and you spend a lot of time with them, okay, and you've got that, the pheromones flying around. I won't go into the deep side of it, and that person is off but not saying anything. They're off, don't you?
Yeah.
You go, what's wrong? Or if they come in and they're like in a state of elation, you go, what the hell? What's happened? What's going on? You get excited with them, right? So, what you talked about, say, with the monk, is that the more you look for that, and the more you understand the feeling that goes with it, every single person on the planet has that capacity. Yes. Let me rephrase that. I would say 95% of people on the planet have that capacity.